Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Deadlines by John Skipp and Craig Spector, and this is from Bantam Books. There you go, little rooster on there. This is the third book in my current book bundle. I'm reading 5 short story collections in a row. And this book, let's just read the back cover copy. There's not much of it. Welcome to the place where mad things dwell, a savage nightmare landscape where vengeful spirits haunt the shadows and lost souls sing out with violence of frozen rain, where blood and pain are the price of passion, and the worst crimes are committed in the name of love. Welcome to the place where hope goes to die, and death is only the beginning. Jack Rowan thought his life was a living hell. Then he tried dying. Now he'll do anything to come back. Anything. That really doesn't tell you much. As I said, this is a short story collection, but it's also a novel. And it's not one of those mosaic novels. What we have here is Jack Rowan, right at the beginning. I'm not giving anything away. Commits suicide. We jump ahead, I think it's about 6 months, and Meryl, I think that's how you pronounce her name, it's Meryl, Meryl. She's a poor little rich girl. She wants to move to New York City. Her father has some conditions, or one main condition. She has to have a roommate. She doesn't want anybody that he's going to pick out, so she finds a waitress at the waitress at the place where she and her father are sort of negotiating, and invites her to come and check the place out, asks her to just at least say she's going to take the place. The waitress is Katie. Katie moves in, so we've got Meryl and Katie living in this apartment, and Meryl finds a box that has a bunch of short stories in it, and so she starts reading these stories, and that's the John Skipp and Craig Spector short stories, but they're all supposed to have been written by someone named John Paul Rowan, and some spooky things start happening in the novel part. Of course, spooky things happen in the short stories because they're horror short stories. That's all I'm going to give you right now. For the too long didn't watch crowd, 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I'm a huge fan of John Skipp and Craig Spector. And I like the conceit that they didn't just throw their short stories together in a collection, which is fine. But the idea that they're actually written by somebody else and one of the characters is reading them throughout the whole book. And if you take the original parts of the story, the novel parts, if you took out all the short stories, just had the novel parts, it would make a nice novella. They build up the characters, and things get creepy and then horrifying. But we're here to talk about the short stories, since this is supposed to be a short story collection. First of all, right off the bat, John Skipp and Craig Spector, fantastic writers, and I think in pretty much, well, no, at least in their first 2 novels, New York, very much a character, and the same is here. I think every single short story takes place in New York. The main story, the novel part, takes place in New York. And it's a living, breathing entity, the way they write it. I had to take notes, since there's no table of contents for me to look at the short story titles. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stories here. Let me just take a quick look here. These stories... where is it? Have appeared in portions of the book portions of this book have previously appeared in Twilight Zone, Nightcry, Borderland, The Architecture of Fear, and the year's best fantasy. I do remember at least one distinctly from Twilight Zone magazine. But this is what we have. The Long Ride, which is about a cabbie named Harry on one night and the fares that he picks up. And at one point, things go badly for somebody. Then we have Go to Sleep. Difficult to talk about these stories without giving anything away, as always with short stories. Go to Sleep is about a young man named Rick who I don't think it's giving too much away because it's very early in the story where we learn he has the power to, with his touch, put people to sleep permanently. And he's trying to use this, he thinks he's using it for good. So let's Go to Sleep. Not with a Whimper. This one, I really like this one. And when I was in the Air Force out in California, I was out on duty. I was talking with somebody, the guy that I was working with at that day or that night. And he mentioned, we were talking about stories and reading and books and things, and he mentioned a story and described it. And then I read this book and I was like, hey, that's that story he was telling me about. It might be the same guy who actually introduced me to John Skipp and Craig Spector. But this is about Jack Fitzpatrick. It's being told by his friend, and it starts with Jack Fitzpatrick being gunned down by the Secret Service after throwing a pie at the President of the United States. And we learn that Jack has this ability to live lifetimes. He can do something he calls squeezing. And so he can just exist in linear time. And then at any point, he can squeeze back into time. And so he's living all of these alternate lifetimes. And he wants to make the world a better place. And so he'll live an entire lifetime studying science, different sciences, all the different sciences. And he'll live a lifetime. He studies all the different religions. And so he can live an entire lifetime and come back and moments have passed. So he's not as he's living the lifetimes, he's getting older because again, it's in linear time. But then when he snaps back to whatever point in time he wants to, he's a couple minutes older than he was when he started that linear life. It's difficult to explain. But anyway, it all leads to things. I've been waiting all my life to meet you is a guy talking about the troubles in his love life, and he's just been waiting for that perfect person. And there's a very funny bit in it. He's sitting in a coffee shop and remembering his life, his loves, hoping for the one. And that's pretty much all I can say, except a very funny bit that I enjoy very much. Meat Market. Our main character is Tom Savage. There's another guy who's looking for love, it seems. And he's been heartbroken. It's been about a month since his last relationship crashed and burned. His buddy convinces him to go out to this club, this meat market, and he meets a woman. And I can't say much except I have an idea of what the ending is, but other people might have other ideas. What actually goes on at the ending or what it means. The spirit of things. Our main character is Jake Wurtzel. It's Halloween. He is boarded up inside his apartment as horrific things are happening outside the apartment. And apparently, this sort of horrific thing has been happening for years, every year at Halloween in different places. And he's trying to survive the night. Don't want to give anything away, so that's all I'm going to say. Shells is the story that I distinctly remember. Marty Swanswick is our main character. He's a comedian who spent 22 years on the comedy circuit, starts to get little roles on TV, and then he's noticed in one, and it sort of launches his career and starts hitting very, very time capsuled, because David Letterman and Johnny Carson are the big places, and he gets a pilot, and then things sort of crash and burn as he's out on the beach, contemplating his life, trying to turn things around, looking at the shells in the sand, and there's some little kids down the beach building a sand castle, and I can't say where this goes, and even though I remembered where it was going to go, it's still packed a punch, but it does take a horrific turn. Gentleman, our main character is David, and he gets a call from his friend Leanne, who, and he knows at the time the phone rings, he knows it's going to be Leanne. He knows exactly what's going to happen, which is she's going to say, "I need you. She broke up with her boyfriend. Please come." And he knows he's going to go. And so he meets her at this terrible dive bar, and he's in love with her. She's always going out with terrible guys, and again, things happen, terrible, terrible things, and it foreshadows a little bit something that happens in the novel part. Deadlines is the main character is Kane. His father's in the hospital. He's dying, and it's Kane just sort of contemplating his life and his father and his mother and everything. And there's a little bit of a twist at the end. And then the final story is The Difference, and we have Max Hart, and he is getting on the Staten Island ferry, the John F. Kennedy, and again, contemplating his life. Things happen. There's a lot of contemplating of the life going on here. Things happen. A terrifying thing at the end, because this story doesn't really end. I think it does. It's fine. But Meryl, when she's reading it, she's like, "What the hell? That's it?" And she's looking for to see if there's more. Checks the other side of the page, looks to see if she lost a page. She feels that there isn't an ending, but I think it's a very interesting ending, and it's fine. So those are all the stories that are in here, and what Skipp and Spector have done is make them reflective of the life of Jack Rowan, the author. So they were able to sort of weave the themes and things from these stories into Jack Rowan's life. So in I'll give this much away. In not with a whimper, which is the one about Jack Fitzpatrick living all these different lives, and he discovers his power when he goes out with this woman, this beautiful goddess of a woman, and they end up having sex, and then she tells him that she has herpes, and he squeezes back, and suddenly they're back at dinner earlier that evening, and he ends up turning her down for sex. Sorry, lady, no sex. Um, so that's when he learns he has the power. I'm not giving that much away since I've already talked about the fact that he has this ability. So later in the story, um, and the woman in the story, her name was Jamie Morgenstern or Morgenstein, something like that. And then later in the story, we meet Jack's friend Glenn, and Glenn is thinking about this, thinking about that. He's all stressed out, and he goes to the bathroom, and there's some pain, and it's because he has herpes, because he slept with Jamie Morgan, and he's like, kind of wish I had the power in Jack's story. Does he think that? But anyway, he's like, I wish I could have gone back and not slept with her, because I got herpes now. So obviously the short story was written long before, relatively speaking, the novel parts, but they were able to weave elements of all the short stories into the real story of Jack, except that some things are almost in the story's wish fulfillment, maybe, than Jack's life. Hopefully this is making sense. So they're very, very entertaining short stories. I'm guessing, and I don't know, but I'm guessing they were put in the very specific order to make them darker and weirder as we go along, to show the descent of Jack Rowan's life, his personality, and the things that eventually led him to committing suicide at the very beginning of the book. So again, very, very well done in the order that the stories are placed. So overall, just a fun short, a very novel, pun intended, idea for making a short story collection, taking these very different stories, and building a greater story around them. And the short stories all work, but the greater story around it also works very, very well. We really get to know Meryl. We really get to know Katie, and the as the stories build, as the short stories build, as we're going along and reading those, we start to notice these things that are connected to the real story with Meryl and Katie and their lives. And there's some surprises, and then things happen at the end. We have a pretty good bit of book. Let's see. Um, So 56 pages before we read the first short story. So that's all set up and everything. And then, let's see. Trying to find the last short story. So the last short story is there. That would be 53. And then, what's the last page? So 62 pages at the end of the book after the last short story. So pretty close in page count. And the book is 309 pages. So we've got 50 some, almost 60 pre-short story, a little over 60 post-short story. That's a third of the book. So it's probably another third, and this now is just off the top of my head, probably another third is novel stuff, and the final third is taken up by the short stories. So pretty well balanced. There's an elevator operator in the building where Meryl and Katie live, and I like his character because he's never traveled, but he has a daughter that works for a travel agency, and it's one of those open elevators, sort of the cage kind. So as it's going up, you can see everything. You can see the elevator shaft, and he's plastered posters from all around the world in the elevator shaft for at least the first 4 floors, I think it is. And each floor is its own place, whether it's the Caribbean or, I don't know, Hawaii. So I liked that as a little character thing that they did. And he says, eventually he wants to cover up the rest of the floors. But he knows a little bit about what went on in this place. I think he gets a little short shrift. He's only got a few scenes, but I mean, there's a few times when we have Katie and Meryl leaving the apartment, and it would have been nice if maybe they'd interacted. But it's just them leaving the apartment, and then they're on the streets of New York. I would have enjoyed a little more interaction with the elevator operator because I liked his character. But overall, 5 out of 5 stars. Just incredible writing. Very unique idea for putting together a short story collection. The short stories themselves work. Some are better than others. I really do like Not With a Whimper, the Jack Fitzpatrick multiple lives story, because it's very interesting. The Long Ride, the first one with the cabbie. I like where that goes. Shells with the comedian and the kids building the sandcastle. Very good. Gentlemen, incredibly dark. Holy cow. And again, you can see, because of the order these stories are placed in, you can see the deterioration of the author. But overall, all good stories, just some really, really good. And then the novel, as I said, the original parts could very well just have been a novella that would work completely on its own. So, yeah, that's it. John Skipp Craig Spector, Deadlines, 5 out of 5. Now, recommendations. If you like this, or if it sounds interesting to you, anything else by John Skipp and Craig Spector, I would mostly recommend their first 3 novels. The Light at the End. It's a vampire novel. It was my favorite novel of all time for a while. So I guess not all time, but that's what I thought. I've read it multiple times. The Cleanup, which is the first novel I read by them. It's actually their second novel. And I'm sort of ignoring they wrote the novelization for the movie Fright Night. But The Cleanup, fantastic. Read it multiple times. The Scream, great novel. And then after the Deadlines was The Bridge and Animals. Animals I've only read once. The Bridge, I think I've only read it once. But it is environmental horror. I definitely want to read it. I want to read them all again. But you can't go wrong with the John Skipp and Craig Spector. But the other thing I want to recommend is the works of Alison Rumfitt. And Brainworms was her second novel, and for some reason, I've been having difficulty remembering the title of her first novel. Let me look it up here. Alison Rumfitt. Tell Me I'm Worthless. I knew the title was something like that, but a different title from a different author kept popping into my head when I was trying to think of this one. So Tell Me I'm Worthless and Brainworms. I believe they're both from Tor Nightfire. No, Brainworms is. Both fantastic books. I believe I gave both of them 5 out of 5. I know I gave Tell Me I'm Worthless 5 out of 5. But as I was reading Deadlines, it reminded me of Alison Rumfitt's work, just the writing style. So if you like her work, check out John Skipp and Craig Spector's stuff. You've got decades apart in the storytelling, and but when I was reading Brainworms, I commented on social media that it reminded me of the Del Abyss line. I said, I think that the Tor Nightfire line could be the new Del Abyss. And Alison Rumfitt said that's kind of what she was going for. But just in the writing style, reading this very much reminded me of her style. I think if you took something from Skipp and Spector, took out the New York specificity, took something from Alison Rumfitt, especially Tell Me I'm Worthless, took out the English specificity, the England of it, that they're very similar, and if you weren't so familiar with them that you could easily tell them apart, if you were just given these things, you might have trouble telling who wrote which. So yes, read more Skipp and Spector, but also if you're a fan of theirs, check out Alison Rumfitt. Absolutely love her stuff. Can't wait to see what's coming next from Alison Rumfitt. And she has a Doctor Who novelization, but I haven't read that yet. And I'm not sure that it would sort of fit into these recommendations because it's Doctor Who. So that is it. I don't have any questions, except maybe, what do you think of this idea of building a novel around a short story collection? Something that's would interest you? Would you like to see other authors do it? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. Try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I have for you. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.